You've probably heard it before. In the age of hypersonic missiles and ubiquitous satellite surveillance, the American aircraft carrier is a floating coffin, a 100,000-ton, $5 billion target just waiting to be sunk by a volley of carrier-killer missiles like China's infamous DF-21D or the longer-range DF-26. The argument seems logical, almost self-evident. Why would you put 4.5 acres of sovereign American territory, crewed by 5,000 souls, within reach of a nation that has built its entire military strategy around destroying it? It's a powerful narrative, one that echoes in think tank reports and online forums with increasing frequency. And in a quiet corner of the Pentagon, after the world was upended by a global pandemic that strained supply chains and exposed industrial vulnerabilities, that narrative was gaining ground. Analysts pointed to shipyard delays, to budget overruns, and to the growing shadow of China's anti-access area denial, or A2AD strategy, a formidable bubble of sensors and missiles designed to keep American forces at bay. The age of the carrier, they whispered, was over. The era of Mahanian sea power had given way to the era of precision-guided munitions. So that raises the question, is this 100,000-ton behemoth a relic of a bygone era, a dinosaur lumbering towards the tar pits of history? Or is there something the world, and maybe even China, is fundamentally misunderstanding about American sea power? The answer isn't just in the steel of its hull or the steam from its catapults. It's in a story of relentless evolution, brutal physics, and a series of revolutionary upgrades that are about to tip the scales of power in the Pacific for the next 50 years. To understand the carrier, you first have to stop thinking of it as a single ship. That's the fundamental mistake China wants you to make when they release satellite photos of a life-size carrier mock-up in the middle of the Taklamakan Desert. Hitting a stationary block of concrete in a control environment is one thing. Engaging the real thing, a living, breathing, fighting entity in the vastness of the ocean, is another planet of difficulty. An American carrier never sails alone. It is the queen on a global chessboard, and it moves with an entire kingdom of defenders. This is the Carrier Strike Group, and it's better understood as a mobile fortress city than a mere naval formation. Surrounding the carrier are its guardians, a fleet of Ticonderoga-class cruisers and Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, all equipped with the Aegis combat system. These aren't just support ships, they are the most advanced and integrated air and missile defense systems ever put to sea. One aviator famously described it as sailing with a mini Golden Dome every single day, a reference to the impenetrable defense of Notre Dame. The analogy is apt. The Aegis system creates a layered, overlapping shield of sensors and interceptors that extends for hundreds of miles. It begins with the A2D Advanced Hawkeye, a carrier-launched early warning aircraft that acts as the group's eyes and ears, detecting threats long before they can see the strike group. Its powerful radar could monitor a staggering 3 million cubic miles of airspace. Once a threat is detected, the layers of defense engage. For high-altitude ballistic missiles, the vaunted carrier killers, the cruisers can launch Standard Missile 3 interceptors, which soar into the upper atmosphere to destroy targets with sheer kinetic force. For closer air-breathing threats like cruise missiles or aircraft, the destroyers and cruisers employ a dizzying array of weapons: the long-range SM-6, the medium-range SM-2, and the shorter-range Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, which can be packed 4 to a single launch cell. The sheer volume of fire a CSG can put out is designed to overwhelm any saturation attack. But the defense doesn't stop with missiles. The CSG is a master of the electromagnetic spectrum. Its ships are equipped with the Sea-Whip, a sophisticated system designed to jam the guidance systems of incoming missiles, blinding them and making them lose their lock. They can also deploy a range of decoys, from chaff to the advanced Nulka system, which launches a rocket that hovers and emits a powerful electronic signature, seducing the enemy missile into attacking an empty patch of sky. And shadowing the entire group, deep beneath the waves, is a nuclear-powered attack submarine, a silent hunter, tasked with finding and destroying enemy ships and subs before they can ever get in within firing range. But let's say a missile gets through. Let's say the Wolf slips past the Hounds. The carrier itself is an engineering marvel of survivability, built with the hard-won lessons from a century of naval combat.
from the Coral Sea to the Falklands. This is not a cruise ship. It has a double hull with layers of Kevlar armor protecting its most vital spaces. The entire vessel is divided into thousands of watertight compartments, a design principle perfected to absorb punishment that would tear any other vessel in half. Every sailor on board, from the cook to the captain, is a trained firefighter and damage control expert. It's a core tenet of naval culture. You don't abandon ship. You fight the fires, you patch the holes, and you keep the vessel in the fight. Still don't believe it? In the summer of 2021, the Navy took its newest carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and did something that sounds completely insane. They sailed it out into the Atlantic and detonated a 40,000-pound underwater bomb just yards from its hull. This wasn't a simulation. It was a full ship shock trial, a controlled earthquake designed to see what would break. The blast was so massive, it registered as a 3.9 magnitude earthquake on seismographs hundreds of miles away. The Ford shuddered, absorbing the biblical level force as a column of water erupted into the sky. After checking its systems, it sailed on, ready for its next deployment. To equal the force of that single blast, China would have to perfectly coordinate and land a volley of nearly 30 of its prized DF-21 missiles in the exact same spot at the exact same time, an operational impossibility against a moving, defending target. But the carrier's greatest defense isn't its armor or its escorts, it's its speed and freedom of movement. Running on the immense power of two A-1B nuclear reactors, a Ford-class carrier doesn't need to refuel. It can sail for over 20 years without ever needing to see a tanker. This gives it logistical independence and a freedom of movement that is bewildering to its enemies. In just 30 minutes, a carrier steaming at over 30 knots can reposition itself anywhere within a 700 square mile patch of ocean. Think about the physics of that targeting problem. For a missile launched from 1,000 miles away, the carrier isn't a fixed target, it's a ghost. The enemy has to detect the carrier, launch its missile, and hope that in the 15 to 20 minutes it takes for the weapon to travel, the carrier hasn't moved, hasn't jammed its sensors, and that the missile survives the gauntlet of the Aegis shield. By the time the missile arrives where the carrier was, the carrier is miles away, launching its own aircraft. The Chinos will run out of their multi-million-dollar missiles long before the United States runs out of ocean to hide in.
So the carrier can survive, but surviving isn't its purpose. A fortress is useless if its soldiers can't leave the castle walls. The entire point of an aircraft carrier is power projection, the ability to hold targets at risk from the sea. And this is where the real challenge has emerged. China's long-range missiles have created that A2AD bubble, a no-go zone, forcing carriers to operate from farther and farther away to ensure their own safety. This strains the combat range of their primary fighter jets, the F/A-18 Super Hornets, and even the newer F-35C Lightning II. The carrier could defend itself, but could it still reach the target? This was the problem that kept naval planners up at night. The solution didn't come in the form of a bigger gun or a faster missile. It came in two revolutionary upgrades that are fundamentally changing the nature of naval aviation. The first is called the MQ-25 Stingray. It doesn't look like much, a sleek, unassuming drone with a low absorbable profile. But its purpose is game-changing. The MQ-25 is a robot gas station in the sky. Launching from the carrier, it flies out to meet strike fighters, refueling them in mid-air and instantly adding up to 500 miles to their effective combat radius. Suddenly, that bubble of Chinese missile defense doesn't look so impenetrable. The carrier's arms just got hundreds of miles longer. The Stingray's impact is more profound than just range extension. Previously, a significant portion of the Super Hornet fleet was dedicated to buddy tanking, carrying external fuel tanks to refuel other jets. This reduced the number of available fighters for strike or defense missions. By taking over the tanking role, the MQ-25 frees up every single Super Hornet for combat missions, effectively increasing the offensive punch of the air wing by as much as 30%. It's the quiet enabler, the robot gas that unlocks the true potential of the existing air wing. But the MQ-25 is just the opening act. The main event has been developed in quiet hangars and secure facilities for over a decade. It's a project known within the Navy as F/XX, the next-generation fighter that will replace the FA-18. This is the Navy's secret, a sixth-generation long-range stealth fighter designed specifically for the vast distances and contested airspace of the Pacific. This is a plane born from the challenge of China's anti-access strategy. It's the Navy's component of the wider Next-Generation Air Dominance program. While details are heavily classified, its known characteristics represent a quantum leap in capability. It will feature advanced adaptive cycle engines, capable of reconfiguring themselves in flight for maximum range or maximum thrust. It will have a much larger frame than the F-35, allowing it to carry more fuel and a larger payload of weapons internally, preserving its stealth characteristics. And its degree of all-aspect stealth, combined with advanced electronic warfare systems, will make the F-35 look like a biplane. But the FA-XX isn't just a fighter, it's the centerpiece of a new system of systems. It is being designed from the ground up to command and control a swarm of uncrewed, loyal wingman drones, known as Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCAs. These CCAs can be sent forward to act as sensors, jammers, or even weapons platforms, allowing the manned FA-XX to remain safely out of the densest threat zones. Now, picture the carrier air wing of the near future. A pair of American carriers steaming 1,000 miles from shore, well outside the reach of any conventional threat. From their decks, a new kind of air power emerges. Unmanned MQ-25s launch first, flying deep into contested airspace to establish a network of mobile refueling points. Then come the FA-XXs, accompanied by their robotic wingmen. These stealth fighters can fly over 1,500 miles, strike their targets with precision, and return to a moving carrier that is itself a phantom on enemy radar. They can do this around the clock, generating a volume and lethality of air power that no land-based air force could ever hope to match. This isn't science fiction. This is the reality Congress has already poured billions into developing.
It's this ability to generate high-volume, 24/7 air power, what the Navy calls the sortie generation rate, that is the carrier's ultimate trump card. And it's a capability that was perfected through decades of brutal trial, error, and human loss. To understand why, you have to go back to the dawn of the jet age and listen to men like Captain Ed Grunwald. Captain Grunwald, a 98-year-old graduate of the Naval Academy's class of 1950, flew jets when the technology was new and deadly. He once told a story of landing on a straight-deck carrier, the kind used in World War II, where landing and parked aircraft shared the same centerline. I had landed and was taxiing when my wingman's jet failed to catch a wire, hit the crash barrier, bounced over it, and killed 6 sailors. That horrifying accident, and countless others like it, led to one of the most important innovations in naval history, the angled deck. By angling the runway, a jet that missed the arresting wires, a bolter, could simply firewall the throttles and take off again safely, looping around for another try. It seems like a simple change, but it transformed the flight deck from a place of constant peril into a ruthlessly efficient, high-tempo launch and recovery machine. It's what allows a modern carrier to put dozens of jets in the air in a matter of minutes. That innovation, along with the steam catapult and later the Ford's electromagnetic aircraft launch system, was born from experience, the kind you can't get from a textbook. This brings us to the ultimate proof, the final piece of evidence that the age of the aircraft carrier is far from over. It doesn't come from a White House speech or a Pentagon press release. It comes from the shipyards of Shanghai. China, the very nation that has spent decades developing missiles to sink American carriers, is now in a frantic race to build its own. They have 3 at sea already. The first 2, the Liaoning and Shandong, are conventionally powered ships using an inefficient ski jump ramp for takeoffs. Their third, the Fujian, is a major leap forward, incorporating catapults similar to American carriers. A fourth, a massive nuclear-powered supercarrier designed to be a direct copy of the American Ford class, is reportedly under construction. Why? Because after all the propaganda, after all the talk of carrier-killer missiles, Xi Jinping and the Chinese military know the undeniable truth. In the vast blue expanse of the Pacific, there is no substitute for mobile, sovereign air power. There is no other weapon system on Earth that combines the defensive strength, the logistical independence, and the offensive striking power of a carrier strike group. You can't build an island base that moves at 35 miles per hour. You can't park a missile silo off an enemy's coast. Only a carrier can do that.
China is learning that building the hardware is the easy part. The software, the decades of institutional knowledge, the culture of safety and maintenance, the complex ballet of moving fuel, ordnance, and aircraft on a pitching deck at night in a storm, is something that can't be stolen or copied. The US Navy has a century-long head start. China isn't building carriers because they think they're obsolete. They're building them because they know they are the ultimate symbol and tool of a global superpower. They've seen the power firsthand, from the USS Gerald R. Ford staring down Russia in the Baltic Sea after the invasion of Ukraine, to the unleashed American fury from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower striking Houthi targets in the Red Sea. They saw the message. The story of the American aircraft carrier isn't one of fading relevance. It's a story of constant, relentless adaptation. From angled decks born of tragedy, to robot tankers that stretch its reach, to a secret stealth fighter that will redefine its lethality. It remains the queen on the chessboard, more powerful and more survivable than ever before. So the question is no longer whether the aircraft carrier is obsolete. The real question is, in this new age of naval power, who will truly rule the waves?
Enjoyed the episode? Like and subscribe to Military Forces. For more in-depth content, your support helps us create more.